run to those scuppers.
Well, the slope would be on this side, running down this way.
Just that way, but you'll still get buildup along there. Let's get to mudding. Mudding. Sanding and mudding, mudding and sanding, sanding and mudding and roofing.
1, 2, 3.
Ideal! Woo! Let's get it going.
Yeah, bro, this thing has got everything that I need. More than enough room for everything. So we got all the drywall up. We got the drywall on the ceiling. That's the hardest part. Then we got the drywall on the sides. And then we went ahead and got our half of the first layer of the taping done. So we got to finish that today. We'll do that 2 more times and sand, and then we'll start doing our texturing after that. We're gonna go through at least one of these, and that all depends on how well you do at the texturing. So we may put it on and have to take it off several times until we get it right. I don't foresee that happening on this build. So we're probably gonna go through probably 2 of these. And this is joint compound. Basically it comes at a certain moisture, and then it's up to you, depending on what you're doing with it, how quickly you want it to dry, to add water and to get the consistency that you want. So last time it was a little too thick or a little too thin. Now we know exactly how much to use. So it's a lot easier. Oh, thank you. So we're trying to stay off the sides on this. Trying to make sure that we don't get anything in there. Anything foreign in this mud is just a complete catastrophe, because it'll get on your wall when you're doing your texturing. It'll make it look terrible. So we try to keep everything real clean. That way it doesn't show up on the walls. This stuff isn't terrible for you, but it is something that will aggravate your lungs and your throat. So we learned from the first house, you know, we had the regular mask on, or some of the cloth masks, but I went out and I bought one that does a little bit more for you. It filters the air. I don't even smell any of this, so I put this on. I do a lot of the sanding, and then I'll come through and put on the second coat. So I got to do the first coat here on the ceiling. So I'll probably be doing that while he sands the first coat that's on the walls, and then we'll just flip positions and help each other out. But I'm gonna go ahead and put my mask on here for just a second while he sands, and then I'm gonna coat the top.
And your mask right there, I mean, it looks like a good investment.
Yeah, when you're young, you're like, mask, that's stupid, it's in my way, blah, 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 blah. And then you get a little bit older and you're like, what's going on with my lungs? I don't breathe as well as I used to. So this is only like $30. Some of them are $100 for the very, very best ones, but it's well worth the investment. At the end of the day, you're not hacking and coughing. You don't want to breathe this, and then also it just keeps you from going up and down the ladder. And when you can get the dust, 6 feet away from you, it's always better. So I use one of these extension rods whenever I can. It just helps the process. It's more efficient, and it's just better for you all the way around. I mean, if it's taking a long time, just like with anything else, that means you got the wrong tool or your tool is dull. So go get a new one or go get the right tool. Make your life a lot easier. All right, so now we got the first sand done on the side walls here. We're gonna move on to the ceiling, put that first coat on the top here. you can see that it's just regular mesh tape. So we're just gonna skim coat that real quick, hit it with its first coat, let it dry, and then we'll come down here and we'll do the second coat. So we're gonna come over here. We're gonna get a little mud. Just get a couple of scoops on here. You can use this hawk if you want, or you can use your regular bucket. I don't like this. It feels like it gets my hands dirty. A lot of people like this because it's secure. I like this and this. I can just hold it, come up here.
Like a painting palette.
Yeah, it's something that I'm used to. I like using it, so that's what I use, and I don't get as dirty with it. We'll come up here. Woo! I just told you we don't get dirty, but it's raining compound right now. And we're just gonna cover up that tape. Locking them together and making them look like one solid unit, that really nice look that you have with one solid wall. That's what you see on a finished product, but this is what it looks like now. I'll come in there with the 4-inch, come back with a 6 or an 8, and smooth it out, okay? So you can see now that this piece of sheetrock and this piece of sheetrock look like one solid unit. When this dries, I'll sand it, we'll go over it one more time, and this will lock those two pieces together, and it'll look just the same on both sides all the way down. If you don't get this right and it bubbles up on you, and or you leave a huge bump here, like from here, see how that's completely flat? If you put it here and there's light on either side, then you know that you got a bump, and people are gonna see that for the whole time that they're gonna live in this house. So you wanna make this one solid unit all the way down, and you wanna try to make it to where it's nice and smooth with no bumps on it. Like I say, we're going to do this another time. So this will be the first coat. The first coat doesn't have to be perfect because we will sand that down again and get rid of the bumps. The second coat needs to be next to perfect, so when we hit that with the sand paper, that it's nice and smooth and you don't see this joint at all. But for right now, we're just getting some mud up here and joining these two together. This is pretty neat because there is an art to this. It isn't just slam jam. This is actually making sure that everything looks smooth and looks really nice. And actually, you can take somewhat of an unsound house and make it look really nice if your finishing touches are correct. So this finishing is very, very important. Part of that is making sure that your tools stay clean. So through this process, you have this compound that's drying constantly on you. We add water at the beginning. And we can add water midway through if it stays in our pan too long, but it needs to be the right consistency. So like what I'm doing here is I'm bringing all this back into the center of the hawk here so that it doesn't dry up. And I'm also scraping my tools constantly because it's going to dry on there. And if it dries, it's going to be like a rock. So when I come up here to try to make this look smooth and really nice, it's going to constantly hit that rock. It's going to constantly hit that hard compound if you're not taking care of it properly throughout the process of applying it. So making sure that this is clean and this is clean is important as you're continuing to go. You have to continuously scrape, keep everything clean if you want a really nice, pretty smooth finish. Let me tell you about teamwork here. This is my buddy Carlito. He's working with me today. He's a foreman. My regular partner is not here today, so he stepped up and he's helping. And having a crew that works really well together, kind of like that team chemistry. Each person pulling their weight and working hard for the betterment of the team, which is us two right now in this specific house. There's 2 of us per house, and there's 5 houses going right now. Really makes a huge difference. So keeping that positive energy, that sense of urgency, working together, really makes things go by quickly, and it gets the job done efficiently when you got somebody who's both positive and can work side by side with you. So Carlito's a really good partner to have. But the mesh shape, it does kind of come apart like yarn. It'll pull apart like that, and you're going to be constantly chasing that. So what I did was I just went ahead and cut out the few loose strands that were there instead of trying to cover it up with compound. And we're just going to go over that again. I don't want to be chasing it. I want it to look nice and smooth with no defects in it. And that's kind of what sets your work apart from everybody else's, is that little bit of extra detail, that little bit of extra time that it took you to make that right. In the long run, your houses are going to look a lot better than other people's. I go with 2 scoops on here. You could get away with 3, but it gets kind of heavy and messy. I then move it all to the middle of the hawk. That way I can keep it centered and balanced and take little pieces at a time, about just like that. And you want the consistency to be where if you hold it like that for about 2 or 3 seconds, you see it moving down, but it's not falling off. And that way you know that it's just about the right texture that you need it to be, so that it's applying correctly, smoothly, and not too dry. You're overworking if the mud is too thin because it's running everywhere. You're overworking if it's too dry because it won't thin out for you into the spots that you need. So getting that consistency right, that's at least 50% of what you're doing, so that you can apply it correctly to the joints where you're working. Either way, on either side of what you're doing, if you added too much water, you're overworking. If you didn't add enough, you're overworking. So getting that mud texture right, getting that water in there, and knowing exactly what you're doing with it and how it's going to react to when you put it on the wall makes all the difference. Being able to see something and what you've achieved every single day, and it's right there in front of you, you're able to put your hands on it, is something that you definitely take a lot of pride in. A lot of people go to work every day and they don't really see a tangible difference in what they did every day, and I think that definitely takes a toll on you. So with something like this, I've always loved working with my hands. It's just something that has come natural to me, and I've found a way to put it into my everyday life, and being able to see what I've done and made a difference in, and what's going to benefit somebody in the future definitely is a great place for me to be, just mentally, from the pride that you get from making a difference. We sanded the walls around us. We're gonna go ahead and put that second coat on the walls here. I can show you here. So regular sheetrock. This is where we've put them together here with the mesh tape and then joint compound. What we can do to kind of show you what we got going on here is that's pretty straight, okay? We're getting better at what we're doing here. It doesn't rock back and forth. You don't see a lot of daylight. So we don't have to do a whole lot of feathering, but we do need to do a second coat here. Real light. We went ahead and sanded it. When that dries, we'll sand it again, and then we'll be ready to texture the walls. Changing the world. That's how you do it. I'm doing. Sanding. showing them how I use the hawk. I like the hawk, bro.
You're getting better at it too.
That's a fact.
Got a goober on you.
All over, for sure. So when you're going down this line, this seam here, if you go too fast, it's gonna make little rivets in there, okay? Too slow, you don't thin it out right enough. And then it's just like any other tool that you have in your hand. If you feel like you got too much on one side or the other, then you just lean. You lean on one side or the other, that pulls it back to the center, and then you gradually let go, and then it straightens it out. So, to somebody that hasn't used one of these before, you may just look like, you know, hey, that dude's just taking his trowel and he's just, or his knife, and he's just going up and down. But there's pressure on either side, and we're really trying to make sure that this comes out as flat and as straight as it possibly can. Too much speed, you're gonna create rivets, and you're gonna see that, it's gonna look ugly. Without the correct pressure on the left or the right, depending on where you need to pull in the mud, it's gonna look bad, okay? So if you look up that way, you should be able to see that it's pretty much a straight line all the way across with no humps in it. That comes from the right texture of mud, the right speed on the trowel, and honestly, just doing it. It takes practice. You can only teach it so much, and then you gotta do it. You do it enough, you get good at it. And then it doesn't take an extra 12 hours, you know, coming in here and sanding this down and then feathering it out, you know, a foot on this side and that side to try to make it look like there's not a hump. You can make this look completely straight all the way across, okay, if you do it right with the right technique. Okay, so now I went in with my knife, I applied a little bit more compound to that first coat. And then what I'll do is I'll come in, and if you look from the top here as I come up, I'm gonna apply slow, steady pressure, because right now I have a bump in the wall. I'm trying to make sure that I'm together, and then I'm getting rid of that bump, but it's still joining those two sheetrock pieces correctly. Came over and I got that much compound off of there. Okay, and the wall here is nice and flat. So if I was just to leave it the way that it was without feathering it out this way, then it would have a nose on it. So you got to make sure that you come in here. You can even do it twice. And the way that that compound is building up on my knife as I bring it up is going to tell me where I have excess and where to put pressure. I don't have very much coming off. I look down to the side, I can see that that's a nice straight line, and you can't tell where the seam is. You know I've done my job. I would say just be patient with yourself when you're learning new things. You can only learn so much from the books upstairs, and then once you come down here, you do it several times before you get really good at it. And patience with yourself, and being able to just take the time that it needs to get good at it. Nobody's great at anything at the very beginning. Even the greatest in the world, they're not good at it until they've done it enough. So just be patient with yourself. It comes with time, and just the second house with everybody that's been here, including myself, we've gotten tremendously better. So we're looking forward to the third, the fourth, and hopefully the fifth build.